Hello, what's going on, everybody? My name is Eric Greenstein with SoFlo Real Estate Investors. Um, Today we have an amazing guest, and I'm super happy that he has joined us today, Mr. Benson. Benson will be talking, and actually, basically, our topic today will be missing out on any deals, or are you missing out on any deals? Benson will do a deep dive on basically explaining how you can find deals in your market specifically. So he's going to talk about that. I'm also going to have him introduce himself and talk about how he got to where he is today. His background is superior, and again, like I said, I love that he's on the show today because it's a pleasure. So, without further ado, Benson, you want to take it, sir?
Yeah, thanks, Eric. I appreciate you having me on. Nice to see some familiar faces. And I had talked to Juan a couple, about 30 days back, and we were talking about some stuff down in the Texas market. But so I've been in the business for close to 18 years now. Done everything from slinging loans. That's how I got started in the business, to doing some hard money lending. I got licensed as a real estate agent. I'm still licensed to this day. We do some deals here and there ourselves, and having that license makes things a little bit easier. But this is part of the reason why what we do is so important for the real estate investing community, is that for so long investors have had to kind of operate in the shadows. Like, they would pretend to be a real estate agent assistant so they could get access to MLS data, or they would they're using like Zillow, for example, to run comps. Like, people are still legitimately running values on Zillow, and it's crazy to believe that people are doing that. As much as we know, like, every dollar counts in this business. And if your values are off even slightly, or if you're missing out on data, it could mean the difference between you making and losing money. And so it's so important to have those numbers correct. And we learned that early on in our business, just from working with different investors along the way. And part of the reason why Privy was developed in the first place is my business partner, Scott Fall, and I were both agents in the same real estate office, and we were working with real estate investors, and we had REO listings. So we had tons of bank deals. This was during the downturn, 2008, 9, 10. And what we found was even having access to that data was still a very kind of tedious, monotonous process for us as agents to be able to find and analyze deals. And that's even us, having that information at our fingertips. So we just realized like how much at a disadvantage the average investor is. And so, we developed a plan to help investors get more involved in the process. And so when an investor can get more involved in the process, they shorten their learning curve. They're able to, do some of their own work on their own time. They're not relying on the agent for every little thing. And so, Privy was kind of born out of the issues that we were having, providing maximum value to our clients, but also finding deals for ourselves. So we basically developed a technical solution to our problem, which we've got a program that analyzes data and provides analytics to help real estate investors, agents, hard money lenders, title companies. We've got some really weird use cases of our system. One of the ones that's so interesting to me is that we've got a group of stagers who use our platform, because we've got this before and after data, and they're able to show and fix and flippers that they can get a better ROI if they stage a property compared to not. And so data changes the game for everybody. It's really the key to having any sort of meaningful success in this business. And believe it or not, again, investors are still kind of doing things the old-fashioned way. So what I want to show you guys today is kind of a new perspective, a new paradigm on the process of finding and analyzing deals, and then showing you some different ways that you can leverage what we call investor activity, which is basically what other investors are having success with in their market, and then leveraging that information to put together a better strategy on where you should be looking for deals, how you should be looking for deals, which markets you should be looking at, which exit strategies can give you the best ROI. And so that's all been done by us kind of developing this over the last 10 years. But again, this was never intended on being a product to sell. It was just something that we used in our own business. And so I'm really fortunate now to be operating at the intersection of my two passions, which is technology and real estate.
Yeah, yeah. So I actually I know that I mentioned before that I'd ask a couple questions, and we would dive deep into Privy. And excuse me, I did not mention Privy in my introduction. Privy to me is one of the best softwares right now for real estate. Like Benson said, it pulls up comps, pulls up after, before, and it just pulls all the information that you would get if you would just go to the property appraisal, type in the address, right? It's just like you don't need to do that anymore, right? Privy does that for you. So it's a one-stop shop, and I believe in the software 100%. So and so like I did want to ask actually a couple questions before we move into the demo. So if I was like a wholesaler, right? How would Privy benefit me, right? Say if I wanted to invest like 3 hours away from me, let's say in Orlando, right? And my market right now is a little saturated, but I wanted to branch out and see what else is out there.
Sure. Yeah. So most people who get into wholesaling, they think they're getting into real estate. And the fact of the matter is they're basically getting into marketing. They get into the marketing business. And so when they first get in there, they think, okay, well, I'm going to invest in real estate. I'm going to flip contracts. And then the next thing they learn is they have to become a professional salesperson. They have to become an expert marketer, and they have to understand, pay-per-click campaigns, or how to market on Facebook, or how to do bandit signs, or how to send out mailing campaigns. And that angle of marketing is the formula is very hard to perfect. And this is why, more than 90% of all people who get in this business fail, is because they spend so much time focusing on the marketing side of the business. And there are some people who do very well in that because they're just kind of natural marketers, and they're good on the phone. And people are sometimes gifted with the gift of gab, they call it, right? They're good on the phone. They're not necessarily selling, but they're trustworthy, and they can build rapport, and all that kind of stuff is really important when it comes to wholesaling. And that's what I would just let anybody know who's getting into wholesaling is be prepared to be just a salesperson. Like, that's your job. You'll be lucky if you can actually get to the side of doing real estate, if that's your only approach. So what we try to do is give people a kind of a blended approach to the business, where by leveraging our data and our technology, you can actually learn the real estate side of the business while you're perfecting your marketing craft. And so and this is oftentimes where wholesalers, again, drop the ball, is that, let's say, for example, one of their marketing campaign works. Somebody calls them off of a bandit sign or a postcard. They somehow picked their postcard out of the 200 that are on their kitchen table and decided to call them. Like, there was something there that made them want to call. And then all of a sudden, they don't know how to run comps. They're like, oh, shoot, is this a deal? Like, what's the after repair value? What does percentage of ARV mean? How do I get to my maximum allowable offer? And next thing you know, they're trying to scramble to learn the real estate side of the business. And this is what a lot of people put themselves into, is that problem where they just don't get the real estate side. So part of what's baked into our platform is the ability to be able to see what other investors are doing, like literally see like what a deal looks like, what they bought it for, what they sold it for, how much money they made, timelines, before and after pictures. You can get a sense of like where you should be looking, because not all areas are created equal. And in a business where after repair value is king, especially in wholesale, but it's also in fix and flip, or if you're doing BRRRR, which is kind of a hybrid approach to do in real estate, where you buy it from the perspective of a fix and flipper, but instead of selling it at the end, you keep it as a rental and you get the best of all worlds. Those are the three main things that are driven by after repair value. But it turns out that most investment strategies work better in these high investment activity areas because it drives economic advancement. You get higher appreciation rates in areas where people are doing fix and flip. The municipalities and the cities and the counties invest in these areas. They go in and they pave roads and they put in new street lamps, and they're doing some work in the neighborhood, and next thing you know, a Starbucks pops up on the corner, right? And so that drives values up and that drives rents up, and then everybody prospers, right? The rising tide raises all ships, right? So this is kind of the benefits of looking in these high investor activity areas. So what we would do, Eric, is we would show you on a map specifically and visually where you should be looking for deals. If you are looking for deals in an area based off of convenience, which is the number one driver for a wholesaler, where they look for deals is they look for deals where they work or where they live, or if they have anything that's maybe outside of their own local market, it's familiarity. So like maybe where you go to school, or you got an uncle who lives in Arizona, so you're going to go look for deals in Tucson, or it's those two main things that drive where people look. And that's a failing proposition, because the majority of the areas where people are looking are not good places to do deals. And the fact of the matter is, it's because ARV is the driver of that. And if you're in an area where people aren't doing fix and flip back deals, where there's activity, you literally can't prove ARV, because the values in that neighborhood are calculated based off of homes that weren't renovated, right? So after repair value, it's not just value, it's a very specific thing. It means, what is a house worth after it's been repaired? And if you're in a neighborhood where nobody's repairing properties, you can't prove ARV. And you'll be very hard pressed to get any sort of deals done in a neighborhood like that. So what we would do first is find out where the hot areas are at, where are investors doing deals, and then we basically reverse engineer the process. So Stephen Covey wrote the book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And the second habit is begin with the end in mind. And so this is a very important business principle, where you basically think about what your result is, your preferred outcome, and then back it up to where you are today. And in the sense of real estate, and you're thinking about values, okay, you need to go where you can prove value. Where are your comps located? Don't go to an area where there's no one doing deals, because you don't have the comps, right? Now, this is a double-edged sword, because now you're in an area where there's competition. But this is why it's an important lesson to learn, because I have heard wholesalers say, like, I don't want any competition. I want to go to where there's no competition. Well, good luck, because you're never going to be able to prove ARV because there's no comps. You're not going to be able to find a buyer who's going to want to take that property off your hands if you send out a property and all the comps are properties that weren't fixed and flipped, so they can't prove value. They're not going to be, so they're thinking down the road too, like, is this house going to appraise after I do a fix and flip? So you never want to be the first person to do a deal, or second or third in an area, because your return on investment is going to be really limited because the comps are non-renovated homes. So you guys might be thinking, well, duh, right? But this is not what people think about. They're thinking about that shiny object in front of their face, and they're chasing some, lead off of a foreclosure list, and they're calling them, and it's like, okay, stop, just take a moment, take a breath, and let's put together a better strategy on where you should be looking for deals, what a deal actually looks like, but based off of what other investors are doing, not just some fictitious idea of what a deal is. Because believe it or not, you are passing up on deals because you don't understand what a deal is in your target market, but the data will show you that.
Yeah, that's perfect. So so before, because I feel like this would be a great area to go straight into your demo, but before we go into the demo, I would really like to open up the floor a little bit I'm gonna do a little something different. Usually we do the Q&As at the end. But while everybody's mind's fresh right now, if anyone wants to talk, feel free. You can unmute yourself, and let's just do like 10 minutes of just a Q&A sesh. Anyone have any questions?
Right. Well, I guess I can go over this with Benson. Benson, you mentioned that you were planning on working in some of the Texas markets. What do you actually need where you don't on the ground in order to benefit from the data? In other words, being long distance, would it still make sense to, start looking into, I don't know, other states, other cities? How far off can you go and be successful?
Well, it's a great question. The answer is you can literally be anywhere. So a good portion of our users aren't even in the US, right? So this is a US based product, and all of our data comes from multiple sources. So we've got public record information like owner and mortgage information, deed data, assessors data for the entire US. So that's every place, it even including places like Puerto Rico. I was just talking with a guy earlier who's looking for deals down in Puerto Rico, leveraging our technology, and he's able to find some good Airbnb opportunities down there. But we've got Canadian users, we've got people in Europe, the Middle East, Mexico, who are using our platform, and they may never set foot in the U.S., but they're literally able to get information that's better than people who are on the ground in those markets, because they're doing things the old-fashioned way. The only way that people on the ground in a local market typically know if an area is hot is because somebody at the local REIA said it was hot. Or they're driving around a neighborhood and they see a roll-off in a driveway, and so that's their indicator of investor activity, right? And so these are the old-fashioned ways of doing things. But again, real estate's really slow to adapt to technology, whether it's real estate investing or it's just agents and the kind of the good old boy network of doing things. It's just been very slow to adapt. And so people still operate on that. And believe it or not, people do invest in technology solutions, but they go back to how they used to do things before that, because it's just what they know. So, being able to leverage the data and technology can change anything, and it can allow you to be more effective in your own backyard, but also find other areas where you can get a better return on investment. What I'm seeing is a lot of people in these higher priced areas like New York, San Francisco, Los Angeles, Nashville, Denver, to name a few, are now taking their money out of those markets where they have a hard time getting a good ROI. And they're putting them in other markets where they can buy multiple properties, get a better ROI. There's more inventory, there's less competition, there's lower prices. So many benefits to being able to do deals in other markets. So, I mean, to answer your question directly, Juan Carlos, is you definitely can do things in other markets, and you can get the data to be able to make confident decisions in properties. But also, part of that is kind of building a team, right? So, and it all depends on what level of investment you're doing. So if you're doing wholesale, you may not need to have anybody on the ground in a market. It would help, if you had somebody who could look at properties for you, but you don't need to do it. But as you move, up that kind of chain of complexity, maybe you move into, say, like a rental property, right, which is a little bit more hands off. Well, you need a property manager, you need maybe an agent or a lender, somebody who can help you do that. Likely, and then you move even further up, and maybe even for those investment properties, you need like handymen, getting closer to fix and flip, you need contractors. So the more complex the project and the exit strategy, the more people you're going to need on the ground to be able to execute that strategy in a remote or virtual market.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Benson.
You're welcome.
Anyone else have any questions for Benson? Okay. Well, Benson, feel free to go ahead and let's see that amazing software.
Cool. Would you mind giving me permission to share?
Absolutely.
Okay. Cool. So, feel free to kind of stop me with questions as they arise, or drop them in the chat, and then we can address them at the end, whatever you feel comfortable with. But this is the Privy platform. So Privy, it's a web-based software application. You can access it from any sort of like computer, laptop, desktop, tablet. We're working on a mobile, like a full mobile version for a phone right now. We just launched this new version you're looking at within the last 45 days. So we've completely redesigned and retooled our platform to adapt to a bunch of our new data sources. So right here, you can see on the map, where we tell you where the data comes from. Very important for the investor to know what data source they're looking at, so they can like, well, what can I rely on, right? So like in some of these areas where we've got public record sold data, where there's not a whole lot of MLS information, like the county data may be delayed a little bit, right? You still have the sold data, but what we do that's different than most companies don't do or can't do is we get data contracts directly from MLSs. So in all these red and blue areas, we've got real-time MLS data. So what we do is we leverage that data. It comes in our system in real time, and we run algorithms against it to help uncover a lot of this actionable information I told you guys about earlier, so you can put together a better strategy and take action and get deals done. So, you guys are down in the South Florida market. You can see here we got a lot of data here. We just got Jacksonville approved. We'll be adding that here soon, and then we eventually can get a couple markets in the Panhandle as well. So we'll have the majority of Florida covered. But you can see here, there's lots of other areas here where you can do deals, and if you leverage this strategy I talked to you about, which we call the reverse REI strategy, you can actually be very successful in investing in other markets, but also figuring out where in your target market you should be spending your time and your money. So the way we identify this, what we call investor activity, is by running an algorithm and extracting those properties that match. So in our system, you can either do it leveraging the filter, which you can come in here and you can just check some filters here, and it will find investor activity for you. But we've also basically created what we call this quick deals bar up top. It opens and closes, and we can, with one button, we can find investor activity for the entire US. So our system's going in, and it's going to extract where investor activity is, where investors are doing deals all across the US. Now, I want to apologize. I just got a message on my computer. It said that my internet is slow right now. So just bear with me in case this is slow for you as you're viewing this. But what we're looking at right here is, this is the US. So this is a heat map. The way you can find high investor activities is by looking for larger, what we call property clusters with higher numbers. The larger the circle, the higher the number, the hotter that area is. So I'm in Denver right now, and there's 377 properties that match this deal criteria in the last 12 months. This is a 12-month time period. Now, you can see here that, if you're in Rapid City, South Dakota, you're gonna have a really hard time making deal work there because there's no one doing deals there. Now, it doesn't mean you can't do a deal there, but what happens is there's a scale, right? There's a scale of, let's say from 0 to 10. So 10 is the value of that home. That's the after repair value. 0 is what your offer needs to be able to make money on that deal. And everything in between is your profit, all your costs, soft costs, hard costs, everything in between, okay? So it's a sliding scale, but they move up and down proportionally. You can see they're just moving the same way. So if you're in an area where there's high investor activity, what happens is everything gets pushed up. So we've got higher values, higher after repair values. They're driven by investor activity. And my maximum allowable offer can be higher. It gets pulled up with the values because all of this stuff in here is still the same, all my profit and costs and everything to make money. But the opposite is true. If you're in an area where there's no investor activity, everything gets squashed down. So now we got lower values, and now your offer needs to be, let's say it's 20% lower to be able to make the same margins work. So you can see if you're in a low investor activity area, you have to throw those lowball offers out, right? And we've all done that. We've all been in a place where we've thrown lowball offers at, and guess what happens? They don't get accepted, right? So you're going through all this process of sending out offers, marketing, and you're potentially you're marketing to areas like in here where there's Rapid City. And what you're doing is you're causing your return on investment on your marketing activities to go down because you're sending marketing to areas where you're not likely to get an offer accepted because the value has to be so, or the offer has to be so low to make the margins work. So you can literally increase the return on investment of a marketing campaign by targeting these high investor activity areas by pushing everything up. You now can offer that motivated seller a much better offer that's more realistic, that maybe is in line with what they think their property's worth. It's got a higher chance of being accepted, right? So that first thing right there, it'll help you get way more deals done just by doing this, okay? Just by making sure you're targeting in high investor activity areas. Don't send any mail to Rapid City, South Dakota. Now, but that also goes for other, areas around where you live. Like this is an extreme, right? So let's go toward the East Coast, right, where we know you guys are located. Now, there are other areas here on the East Coast that have, you can see all the circles are getting larger and they're getting bigger, and there's less kind of dead space in between where these are located. But so look at an area like Chicago, 731 deals in the last 12 months that have been completed. Look at Philadelphia, almost 1,200 deals that were done. So the strategy here is to find out where these high investor activity areas are, and then target those. So if we were going to look at Florida, unfortunately, South Florida isn't the best place to invest in Florida. Okay. Now, that doesn't mean you can't get deals done there. And I'm going to show you where you should be looking for deals in your local market. But when we look at these hotter areas, you're probably going to want to be closer to, the Tampa areas. There's some stuff in Orlando as well. So let this kind of break up. Now let's actually scroll down a little bit and we'll get into your area, and we'll look at another market too. But I want to obviously show this here because you guys are focused on the South Florida market. Now, as you can see here, 177, 196, like this area right here is the highest investor activity area in South Florida. Now, when we zoom in here, these clusters break up into smaller clusters, and they get more geographically accurate on which markets, which cities, which areas are the most active. And so when I look at this right here, I'm seeing, okay, there's kind of a hot pocket right in here. Okay, right in here. And I don't know if this overlaps with what you guys think is a hot area. And Eric, I'd be interested to learn, if this overlaps with what people in the area think.
It's pretty accurate.
And that's what's a good thing about this is that what we're finding out is that your sense of the market is accurate because we're showing you the data, not the other way around, right? So we're showing you that, okay, good thing that you're right. You know where the hot areas are at. Now, that evolves and changes. So on a daily basis, new deals are closing. So you want to be able to adapt to that market as it's changing by getting these real-time updates. So the system here now is going in. I just isolated this using our drawing tool. Now we can see all the actual transactions that are being done in the area. These are the actual deals that were done in the last 12 months. Now, the way that we're identifying these is these are properties that were purchased, fixed up, and sold, and they went up in value. We use at least 25%. In some market like this or San Francisco or Denver, you could probably go up to 80, maybe even 85%, and you'd still find investor activity. And that's part of what I want to show you guys here is please make sure you understand what a deal is in your market. If you're going off of a standard formula, the standard formula, 70% of the ARV minus construction costs minus your assignment fee is your maximum allowable offer, right? We've all heard that. If you're using a strict formula like that, I'll bet you $100 that you're passing up on deals you shouldn't pass up on. And the way that we can prove that is by looking at the houses that have closed, right? So here's a house that actually just closed yesterday, right? So that gives you a sense of how up to date the information is. So this report right here, I just opened up, is called a live comparative market analysis. So we're building these comparative market analysis reports, leveraging the best data that's available. Now, what's even better with this system here compared to what I would have to do as an agent is the MLS doesn't have any automation, doesn't have any algorithms. I have to go in there and basically build a comparative market analysis, pull comps myself to be able to determine value. And even being an experienced agent with close to 18 years experience in this business and in the investment side, it could still take me an hour plus to run comps on one property properly, right? And so who's got that kind of time? Right now, again, the average investor is at a disadvantage. So what do? They go to Zillow and they look at like similar homes that have sold in the area, right? Please do not make a buying decision off of anything you've pulled from there. It will cause you to make a mistake. But what we're showing you right here is these are the comparables. So our algorithm uses all the major property characteristics of the subject property to pull comparables and show you that real-time sold data so you can accurately determine the value of your home in its current condition and what it would be worth in the after repaired state. We also have rental data. So the black ones are rental comps. So if you're doing a BRRRR or you're building a portfolio or you're a wholesaler who is trying to assign properties to people who are doing those exit strategies, you've got that information for you as well. Now, what's really cool about Privy is we are able to basically put the two transactions side by side. So this property was purchased in May for $221,000. They sold it for $317,000. So they had a gross profit of $96,750 gross, right? Don't get gross confused with net. We don't know what their net profit was. We don't know how much money they made because there's no database that contains that information. We know what their gross was. But this is how you measure percentage of ARV, right? Which is the first major way of identifying and measuring how good a deal is, right? So let's just run a quick calculation. So if they bought it for 221 grand and they sold it for 317,000, they got this thing for 69% of the ARV. Reasonable deal. It's not a home run. It wasn't, it isn't something that was necessarily, super thin. But again, we don't know what condition the home was in before the renovation. But what we do show you is we show you the before and after. So this was an off-market acquisition. So you can see this says public records. So we're able to piece together the off-market versus the on-market deals. And believe it or not, you guys, the majority of properties that are out there, the majority of deals that are done are on market. So think about your business and where you're spending the majority of your time. If you're not thinking about on-market deals as a place to get deal flow, you're missing out on more than half of all the opportunities that are out there. And I'm going to show you some properties tonight that could be good deals for you. So when you look at these photos here, you can see exactly what kind of construction they did, what kind of materials they used. These are your comps, right? So if you find a deal in this area, you can use this property right here as proof of value when you're out there marketing that deal. Or if you're a fix and flipper yourself, like this is what you might send to your lender to help prove to them what the value of your house is that you're getting ready to fix and flip. So when you leverage this investor activity data, there's lots of different use cases of it. But when you're trying to prove value to another person, an appraiser, a lender, a potential buyer of a wholesale deal, this information becomes really valuable because to put the side-by-side data, you can't do that with the MLS. There's no way of doing it. You'd have to go in and pull all these individually. And I tell you what, agents just aren't doing it. They're not putting the time to go in and do that. But we also give you some really valuable timelines. So whenever you're trying to determine what your maximum allowable offer is, whether you're fix and flip, wholesale, whatever, you have to factor in your scope of work, right? So your scope of work is how much money you're going to spend on the home, any sort of costs involved. But one of those factors is how long is it going to take for you to do the deal? Now, if you haven't done a deal before, you haven't done a lot of deals, if you're looking at doing some stuff virtually, How are you going to determine that? Well, just look at what the fix and flipper who closed the deal yesterday did. He was under construction for 45 days, right? So 45 days is actually pretty good to get in and out of a property, but this is, not a huge home. It's only 1,100 square feet, but 52 days on market, right? So days on market is an important thing to pay attention to, because you may not want to get into a property or an area where the days on market are extremely high on average. Now, no one property is going to give you all the information you need to be able to make, an educated decision on, the overall market. But if you research these properties like I do in certain areas, you become a student in the market. And next thing you know, you're the most informed investor in the area because you're just researching what the data tells you. So the total hold time on this is 97 days. So that's pretty good, right? In and out of that thing. Now, let's say you are wholesaling. Well, what better way to build a strategic buyer list of investors that are doing deals today is to look at the house that closed yesterday that was fixed and flipped. So DMM Management Company LLC. If you're doing wholesale deals in the North Miami, Hialeah areas, this is somebody you have to have on your buyers list right now because they're doing deals in a pandemic. And I guarantee you that the majority of the wholesalers out there are spending time cultivating and building a buyer list of people who are never going to take a property from them. So they go into these Facebook groups. Maybe there's a Miami Facebook group and they're like, hey, where are my Miami buyers at? And they get, a couple dozen emails, but none of those people are probably buyers. They're probably just other wholesalers trying to get in the middle of a daisy chain, right? And this is why you've got these huge lists of people who are not buying your deals. So this is the second thing that really help you be more effective if you are doing wholesale, is build a buyer's list of people who are doing deals today in a pandemic. And what's so cool about this is a lot about this company just by looking at the property they just closed. So you know what their buy box is, right? This is industry term for what their buying criteria is. What size properties, number of bedrooms, bathrooms, areas. Well, you now literally know what zip code this buyer is willing to buy in. You know what their buy box is because you're looking at the product of a property they just completed yesterday. So let's say you wanted to reach out to this company. Well, you could just Google them, right? Most of these LLCs show up in these business databases you can find online. Or if you don't find contact information, you can just do a skip trace and find them fairly easily. But that conversation of building a relationship with a buyer who you know is doing business can go way smoother and be way more effective if you leverage what I'm going to show you right now. So what you do is you pull this up on your computer and you call DMM and you say, hey, DMM, my name is Eric Greenstein and I'm an investor in the Miami area. And I'm doing some fix and flip and some wholesale stuff. Oftentimes I come across properties that I just don't have the bandwidth for. If I find something that is in kind of that 33023 zip code or that area, can I send it over to you? Would that be something you'd be willing to take a look at? Well, now they're like, whoa, like this person called me up. They know a property I just fix and flip. They know what zip code I'm looking in. Tell them about the property. Say, hey, wow, I really like the way you guys did the kitchen. That backsplash looks amazing. Tell me more about what kind of houses you're looking for. That conversation is so much more smooth when you lead with data because you sound like you know what the hell you're talking about, right? You're coming prepared, and in the mind of that buyer, you're bringing way more value than the average wholesaler that's just sending out crap to some list where they don't even know who's on the list. You don't need 1,000 people on your buyer's list. You just need a handful of people that are doing deals today. They've got the expertise, they've got the funds, and they've got the wherewithal to close a deal. But most importantly, they're willing to give you an assignment fee for a property because you're looking at stuff that they're doing right now. So what you can do is you can actually go in and just build an amazing buyers list right here. So every one of these properties, we have these tags. So this house right here is a cash buyer. There's no mortgage on this house. It's an LLC. So you can sort our data leveraging our public record information by tags like this. So you can look for off-market deals. We'll talk about that in a second. But you can look for cash buyers, vacant properties, zombie homes, foreclosures, tired landlords, bank-owned properties. This is going to get even longer. One of the things we don't have in here yet is like tax sales, but we're going to be adding more and more off-market opportunities. But with the moratorium ending, the foreclosure moratorium, There's going to start to be, you're going to start to see more of those actions take place where banks are going to be starting to start the foreclosure process on people, even though there's still some opportunity for people to take advantage of the CARES Act, which actually allows for up to 18 months of forbearance. But we're coming up to the 18-month period now for people who started the forbearance at the beginning of COVID. So a lot of those people are not going to have an opportunity to extend those forbearances any longer. And now they're 18 months behind, and all that debt was just added to the back end of their loan. And now they're in a worse position, right? So prepare yourself, you guys. There's going to be major opportunities in foreclosures, but also think about all of the landlords that haven't been getting rent for the last 18 months, right? So these absentee owners, right? These tired landlords, people that have owned a property for over, between 8 and 10 years plus, right? These are going to be opportunities, and we can help you find those opportunities because we've got that information in our system. But let's look at a couple more of these. Like, let's say on this house right here, this is just a standard little ranch, right? It's in Miami Gardens. We come down here to the before and after data, and we can see this house was for sale for $208. They bought it right from the MLS, right? So here's a fix and flip that an investor got from the MLS that they didn't have to go market for, right? So how great is it that if you don't want to be a marketer, or maybe you're not good at it, or you don't want to spend a bunch of time, in touching people, they say it's between 7 and 12 touches on an off-market deal to get one property under contract. Are you touching your people 7 to 12 times? If you're not, your leads are falling through the cracks. Do you have the time to be able to do that? Do you have the CRM? Do you have the help? Do you have cold calling people in the Philippines? Like, think about, that's the expectation that the pros are using, 7 to 12. Are you getting that far? Are you good on the phone? Do you know how to send out a mailing campaign? Do you have the money to send out mailers, $5, $10, $20,000 campaigns? That's for you to answer. But here's a property that you could have got from the MLS if you just known about it. And it was on the market, and we flagged it as a deal back in May 20th. So 329 grand was this property, is what they sold it for. That's the ARV. So they got it for 63%. That's a decent deal, right from the MLS. They didn't have to wholesale, or they didn't have to do any door knocking or sit at the kitchen table of somebody who's in foreclosure and have an uncomfortable conversation about them losing their house. You don't have to be a therapist, right, and help somebody who's crying because they're losing their home. Right? This is a property that was available right off the MLS. So there's lots of these out there, you guys. And the reason why you can do more MLS properties on market is because of this reverse RA strategy. Remember I told you that everything gets pushed up in a high investor activity area? Well, that offer now is way higher, and you can actually get properties that are on MLS at asking price because you're in an area that has high fix and flip activity. If you're not in an area like that and you squash everything down, you're going to be able to do very few MLS deals in those areas that don't have high investor activity. So another tip there, if you can do this reverse REI strategy, you're going to be able to do on-market deals that you don't have to go out and be a professional marketer to find. So if I wanted to keep my finger on the pulse of the market here and just track what my competition is doing and become an educated investor for this area. And by the way, you guys, there is no book, there's no podcast, there's no guru who's going to be able to teach you what to buy a property for, what to sell it for, which areas are hot in your target markets. The education doesn't go that far. It stops at the point of where you get it under contract. And maybe they talk to you about, doing a fix and flip and, all of the ins and outs of working with contractors and that sort of stuff. But typically it ends right there. That's where the education ends. Well, this will keep you up to speed on specifically which areas you should be marketing to, specifically which areas you should have your agent be looking for deals. This is where you should drive for dollars. This is where you should knock on doors. You should not be doing it in other areas where there was just, one deal in an area, those little blue dots we had on the map. So all you got to do is just click this filter here and save the search, and our system will email you updates as there's new matches that happen in real time. And this is just for this particular search, but any search that you save on our system will send you updates. So if you saved a search for, all vacant properties in an area, well, every time a new vacant property shows up, we'll send it to you. So you're constantly monitoring your areas for the types of properties you're looking for. This just happens to be sold fix and flips. Very beneficial, lots of investor activity here. This is an area you'd want to certainly target.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one of the things I mentioned to you is, well, you can do on-market deals, right? So how would that even work? Well, it's very simple with our system because you can obviously just change the filter and switch it from sold to active and play with a few things, but you can also do it right here. So you just click this one button. It says click to find similar active deals. Now, what our system's doing is going in and it's pulling comps on every single property in that area, and it's only going to show us the houses that match our specific deal criteria. So you tell the system what you're looking for. Now, what was baked into that button was 75% of ARV or better. Let's say you wanted to be at, 68%, right? You change it, you can scroll it down, you can get it to down where you want to be. Now, I'm a big fan of creating a wider net because, that some people are automatically going to go, well, I'm just going to put it at 50%. Well, if you do that, you won't see something that's at 55% or 60%, or that one that's at 65 or 68 that doesn't need any work. Maybe it's just, in a bad situation, they want to sell it. So having a wider net is a good strategy, and then you can eliminate these. Now, what we've already done, though, is we've already gotten rid of 95% of the properties that aren't deals in this area. We've eliminated everything that's not a deal, and we're only showing you the ones that have the potential of being a deal. So here's an example of one. This house is for sale for $220,000. It's 2445 Northwest 158th Street. We scroll down here to the comps. We flag this property as a deal because of these blue properties. Now, we call these investor comps. These are all the comps that support that this property is 68% of ARV or better. And then when we look at the comps right here, we can see here that there's investor activity because we see all these properties with before and after data. Those are fix and flips. And for beginning investors, think about this, how hard it is for you to determine what value is. What's a deal? Like when you're scrambling, you finally get a property that comes over and you're like, shoot, how do I prove ARV? Well, the easiest way to prove ARV is if the house right next door was just flipped, right? That makes it really simple. So look in areas where there's high investor activity, and then you'll have a property like this where the house right next door was just flipped and it sold for 329 grand. So this house you can buy for 220,000. The ARV is 320 grand. That's at 67% of ARV. That's a deal that I think anybody here will be willing to go take a look at, right? But what happened is our system found it automatically. So I showed you the saved search earlier. Privy would go out and they would find this property and they would email you a link to this comparative market analysis with the property already pre-comped out, showing you all the investor activity in the area so you can quickly determine the ARV and take action, right? The good deals go fast. So if you're hemming and hawing and you're not really sure, well, you're going to miss out on some deals. But when you can see that there's fix and flip activity, this one just went for 349, 329. Like this is right around 65 to 67% of ARV. That's a deal that you can make money on. Let's look at another one. Let's see what else we can find. Here's one that's at 369. Come down here to the table view. We'll look at the comps. You can get this one for 369. Look at these comps. 630,000, 610,000, 640,000. So you get this one for 369. Looking at these percentages of ARV, this thing's around 60 to 65% of ARV. That's a great deal. This is definitely a property you should consider looking at if you're doing deals in this market. So this is just the Miami area, guys, right? I know you're in South Florida, but what our system will do is it will identify these properties for you that you can write offers on every single day of the week.
Wow.
You don't have to be in the system all day. I know the majority of us probably who are watching this aren't doing this business full time. So how are you going to get full-time results, right? Where you're making the money you want to make so you can leave your 9-to-5 job if you're only spending a couple hours a week doing this? Well, it's through automation. That's how you do it. Automation and potentially, leveraging virtual assistants. We actually got some of our users who use Privy with their VAs, so they can do that heavy lifting for them. But remember when we were looking at the map, we said, Chicago looked hot. Well, check out another market. You can put your line in the water right there in the South Florida market right here. Well, as easy as our system's finding deals, well, why not put a line in the water in Chicago, where we know is a hot area? So let's go ahead and take a look there. We just switch over to Chicago. And then all I got to do is just do that same process. So I go to deals, investor activity. It's going to show us where the hot areas are at in Chicago. And then, right here is pretty hot, right? That's a little hot pocket. So all I got to do is just isolate this. And then we click the green button to find active deals. I mean, this is how simple it can be, you guys. Like, think about all of the brain damage you go through every single day to try to find deals. When literally in 3 clicks, here's a property that's available today for 169 grand. And he said, I didn't cherry pick these properties. This is available right now. I mean, this might not be a deal. Maybe the comp is on the other side of the highway, or maybe it's on a lake or something like that. But you can see this property needs some work. All we got to do now is go to the comps, and you can see here that this is the closest fix and flip comparable, just sold for $295. That's 58% of the ARV. In 3 clicks, we literally found that. Now, again, this was set at 70% or 75. So let's lower this. Is there anything I can get here at 50%? Maybe, maybe not. But this is what's available today. Now, the cool thing is if you look at this and you're like, well, there's nothing here that I can get that's at 50% today, well, just save the search. And then on system, when it finds that property, it'll email it to you. And then you just get in there and you analyze the home. This one's at 115 grand. 115 grand. I mean, just think about those prices compared to Miami, right? I mean, this is insane. But if you come down to the comparables and you look at the comps, look at this, 245, 245, all better than 50% of the ARV. This is how simple it can be, guys. All you got to literally do is just set the system up and let the algorithm do the heavy lifting for you. You don't have to be in the system all day, every day, leveraging the system. It does it for you. $130,000. Closest sold comp just went for 349. That's 37% of ARV. You guys, you could wholesale that. You could fix and flip it. You could do a BRRRR. You could turn it into a straight rental. The rental comp we have in that area is at $1,100. I mean, that could potentially cash flow. So with our system, you guys, you can literally just set it and forget it. And our algorithm will go out. It'll find these deals for you. And this will help you to not pass up on deals. I didn't dig deep enough in the Miami market, but there are people that are doing deals down there at 75, 80% of the ARV. Another 10 minutes, I could have found one for you. But what that tells me, you guys, is that if let's say there's someone that's doing a deal at 75%, well, if you can find a property on market at 72%, well, now you got a 3% margin there that could be a $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 assignment fee. So if you learn what other buyers are willing to do in your market, and then you tweak your business model to find properties there that match their deal criteria, you can do stuff. You can do this all day, every day. I got people who now are almost specifically targeting areas that have investor activity where there's buyers that are paying up, and they're doing things up to like 80, 85% of ARV. And they're finding properties right from the MLS that are at 80, and they're still making money doing wholesaling. Did you ever think you could wholesale a deal at 80% of the ARV? Hell yeah, you can, every single day. But you can only do it in certain areas. You have to have that local market knowledge to know where you can do that. And you have to know who those buyers are. And that's who we do. We show you who those buyers are, because you're looking at a house they just closed. There's no disputing what they're willing to buy because you saw that they just did it. And what's also cool about that approach, you guys, is you don't have to worry about this whole percentage of ARV minus construction costs, right? Which a lot of us have a trouble, establishing construction costs as well, because we don't understand the numbers. You don't have to do that when you see somebody that just bought a property at 80% of the ARV, because they're adding their costs on top of what they bought it for. So all you got to do is find something that's at, let's say they did it at 80%. If you find it at 76%, well, there's 4% margin there for you for an assignment fee, because they're willing to go up to 80% because you're looking at the property they just closed. Right? Mind blowing, right? Like, this is something that you can literally do from behind your computer and never leave. Couple other quick things about Privy. You can run comps on any property just by typing the address right in here to the search bar. Our system will build a comparative market analysis. In our MLS markets, it'll be the real-time MLS data. But we plan on being in every major city with this MLS data soon. All the red ones are the ones we're adding right now, but you're going to see more red pop up on the screen. I was just talking to Juan Carlos. So, San Antonio, Austin. I'm not sure when Houston will be added, but it's certainly on the roadmap. But you can see there's Oklahoma City is an area I'm really excited about. Cleveland is another area that I think is going to be great. We just got approved for Syracuse, Buffalo, and Rochester up in Western New York. Jacksonville is really hot right now. Lots of deals being done there too. So we'll be able to help you all over the US. And again, off-market data, real-time MLS data. There is no other company that's nationwide like this that is able to put all those data sets in one place. So that's Privy. Eric, what questions do you have? Like, I mean, from the last time you saw it to this time, like what kind of sticks out to you in your mind, being an expert, investor and kind of a person in the area down there? What came out of that presentation for you?
Well, what I really love is, well, first off, technology, yay for technology, right? Always, I'm always in love with technology, and I love how you simplify the process of information, right? Data information. What you showed me was who bought that house, who flipped it, right? It's right there in front of you. I love that. I love that part, because you're right? You ask for buyers, you get all these lists, right? You do all this work, this additional work, and pulling that vital information and actually taking action and looking them up and speaking to them and saying, hey, this house that I saw in Miramar that you bought this day, love the updates. I have a couple houses the same. Here you go. So I love how, like I said, I love how all the information that you have on there is specified. That right there was I didn't know that previously. So that's actually like the next step. I love that. Also, like the before and after pictures, I remember it, but not as well as that. I think you and I checked out Fort Lauderdale at the time. And there wasn't that much, but I can see that map now has populated and there's a lot of deals there. Sold deals, active deals. Juan Carlos actually asked the same question I was literally going to ask as well. Any searches on like multifamily, right? Like duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes.
Oh yeah. So
Right.
here, you just switch over to the multifamily search here. So if a property has been listed in the MLS and it's multifamily, we'll have it in our system. At some point, it's customary for an agent to put, larger multifamily properties in CoStar, which is kind of the tool that agents use to list properties. But if it's, 5, 6, 7, units is where typically that would switch over. But if it's a 30-unit building and an agent wants to list it in Privy, we'll have it in Privy. Not in Privy, but in the MLS. If they want to list it in the MLS, we'll have it in Privy.
Right. I guess the question is it generally multifamily, or could you filter it like could you say duplexes, fourplexes, triplexes? Could you do it like that?
Oh yeah, you just tell how many units you want. So if you select multifamily right here, there's a unit. So you can have a minimum number of units that you want. And then
I see.
If you just put
I see.
2 there, it'll be at least a duplex plus.
Sure.
And it will tell you, right? So it tracks the number of units there, and then we show you, what the MLS has, and we also show you what the public record says.
Thank you.
Yeah, good question.
Yeah, it is a really good question. Perfect. Well, we went a little bit over time. I mean, I don't mind speaking a little bit more. If anyone has any questions, I mean, we can always talk for a couple more minutes. But before that, I wanted to thank you for your time, Benson.
Oh yeah.
This is again, it's always a pleasure having you or seeing you, especially seeing Privy again. Every time I see it, it's just getting better and better and better, and more information is there, right? And that's what we need, right? That's what we're looking at. So again, I appreciate your time, appreciate you coming on the show here.
Yeah, my pleasure. It was fun to show you guys all that info, and I wish there was a few more questions, but also too, Eric, like if I put together like some special pricing for you guys, so if anybody's interested in taking advantage of our system, they can definitely reach out. I'm not sure if you plan on posting that information here, but if you do want to take a look at Privy, here's my contact information. So it's benson@teamprivy.com. That's my email address. The number is 720-815-0034. And then getprivynow.com. So the normal pricing for Privy is $97 a month. We make it really affordable. But I did put together some special pricing for your group, Eric, where they can get a $300 discount from our annual plan.
Perfect. Well, yeah, what I'll do is I can send that over in an email format to the group, and if anyone's interested, they can definitely check that out. Appreciate that.
Yeah, you got it.
And yep, that's exactly how we can contact you. That was my next question. So I put that in the chat as well. But yeah, again, I really appreciate it. Again, thank you for taking your time. And does anyone else have any questions before we log off here?
I have a question. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead,
yes, James.
Okay. Well, I'm all new to pretty much like I'm all new to this wholesaling thing, and just like Benson was saying, I'm here driving for dollars, trying to pull a list from XYZ. I'm kind of getting frustrated. So, is the advantage to Preview is that okay? Right now, I'm kind of using batch lead, trying to pull lists, but is the advantage by using Preview is that I can get like just like you said, like the high deals. And the investors, like the point where deals are being made, plus I can contact the buyers instead of just trying to cold call from a list.
Yeah, that's one of the benefits, James. So tell me, how did you choose which area you're going to go drive for dollars in?
Honestly, just like you said, pretty much like it's all based on preliminarity, because like I drive for like a delivery company, so therefore, I drive locally throughout day in Broward, and I just drive around and see what house is available.
Mm-hmm.
But pretty much every time I was kind of skip trace those numbers, people were saying, well, it's sold, we're not interested, we're not selling, we already have a buyer. So it's like, okay, so like, what am I doing wrong? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't think you're doing anything wrong, James. I think that there's a better way to do it. So
Correct.
There's a chance you'd find something. Like, if you're driving for dollars, like you may find a house that looks like it's run down. Maybe the grass is overgrown, and there's mail falling out of the mailbox, and you're like, that house is vacant, right? Like, I'm going to try to find the homeowner. So for what you would do is you would just enter the address right in here in Privy, and our system will pull up that property in a comparative market analysis format. So it's going to show you all of the comparables, so you can quickly determine what that thing is worth. And with that real-time MLS data, right? So it's not going to use just county data, which eventually where's all data ends up. But the MLS is, as soon as that closing happens and that agent puts it in the MLS, about it. You don't have to
Okay.
wait around. So those comps and the accuracy and the timeliness of those comps are crucial for you to be able to get your offer accurate. So we'll be able to do that for you. And then the investor activity, right? So if you had chosen that area of where you're driving for dollars based off of investor activity, then what's likely going to happen is the house that you found that's vacant is going to be in an area where there's fix and flip activity, which makes it really easy to prove ARV, right?
Correct.
Now, hopefully you're in an area where the people are doing deals, but if you're not, you could be wasting your time, right? And you've got limited time, right? As a delivery driver, maybe you're working 10 hours a day, 5 days a week, and now you've got an hour to go drive for dollars. Like, did you just waste an hour of your time by going out there? I don't know. But wouldn't you like to know? Wouldn't you like to know if your time is...
Correct. I think I was, yeah, correct. I think part of it is that I didn't know like where the deals were being made and like where the hot leads are, because the thing is like if I know where the deals are being made, then I can drive in that area to find out, you know, in that section as well, like you said. Perfect.
You can, and that's where your buyers are at too, right? So if there's
Yes.
deals being done there, it's easier for you to make the numbers work. You've got the comps to prove value, and then you know who's willing to buy those properties because the guy that closed the deal and the fix and flip yesterday, you've got all his information.
Exactly.
Right? So now we don't currently have skip tracing in our system. It's something we plan on adding down the road. So we wouldn't be able to provide that value to you at the moment, but it's coming. I mean, it's something the team's working on currently. But we would be able to show you who those buyers are, and you could either, you know, if it's an LLC, you can either Google them or pull them up in that like a True People search, which is free. You know, another, you know, decent website is there's a handful of like free skip tracing sites that are out there. But Batchleaf is a good company. Like they do what they do well, but they're limited by, you know, how often the county is reporting those properties to them, and then they provide them to you. So what I would even suggest too is consider doing on-market deals, right? You can wholesale an on-market deal the same way as you can an off-market deal, and you can find on-market deals that have the margins that are necessary for you to get your assignment fee, and that end buyer is still having plenty of meat on the bone to make their fix and flip make sense for them and get the return on investment they're wanting.
Oh, okay, yeah, because I thought pretty much if something was already on the MLS, there was not really any room to more like to sign a contract, because I'm saying I guess because the seller wanted like top dollar, and I was never going to find like an investor to buy the property, you know?
No, it's not true. It's not true. People are buying things from the MLS every single day to do fix and flips, but you can wholesale one too. So don't confuse retail with after repair value.
Correct.
So you can pay retail for a property directly from the MLS and still have plenty of room to make a deal work, because if you're working off of a percentage of after repair value. So you can pay over asking price directly from the MLS, but if that thing's at 65% of ARV, you still have a deal.
Correct. Which
right?
Correct. Which your software gives, you know, will like give us the information on it, on the numbers.
And part of it is just knowing the market, right? If you know that people are doing proper, you know, fix and flips at 65, 75% in an area, well, now you know where you need to be to get your properties from. Let's say you're a motivated seller. Maybe somebody calls you off of one of your marketing campaigns. Well, if you were using the old time strategy, you might think you have to be at 50% to make the deal work. But if you know that you're in an area and there's 5 buyers that will do stuff at 75%, well, maybe you don't have to, you know, to walk away from that deal with that seller who says, no, I won't go below this price, where you typically maybe would have bowed out of that negotiation. But if you're like, no, I know in this area that there are buyers that are doing stuff at 75, I'll take it at 72, right? Exactly. Which otherwise you might have walked away from.
Yes. Okay,
so it's that
great.
local market knowledge, and that'll be the fastest way for you, man, to learn the business, because you're probably still, so like you talked about your strategy, you're probably overwhelming yourself with education on marketing, right?
Yeah,
skip tracing, cold calling, all that stuff is probably in your mind space and not you thinking about what a deal is.
Correct.
Good question.
Thank you. Yeah, just send me, I think Eric, just send me the information, and I'll definitely go online and sign up and, you know, kind of, you know, start doing my research on, you know, how to get more familiar with the program.
Yeah, no problem.
Well,
Not a
James, and one of
problem.
the things I'm doing for Eric too, and this might, well, not might, but this will be a benefit to you, is I'll give you some one-on-one training. So on our annual plan that Eric's going to send out, I'm able to basically give you an hour of my time, so that I can help you set up and save your search and really train you on how to use the system.
Okay. Okay, great.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, James. Good luck out there, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, James. By the way, I want to welcome you to the group, man. I know Deontay, referred you to the group, and want to welcome, and thank you for joining tonight. First off, I love the question, and I love how you're utilizing your delivery time frame to also, look around and make yourself aware of other areas, right? I actually used to do Drive for Dollars a couple of years ago. I was helping a friend out, and the benefit was I knew the area, right? Like I was born and raised here, so I knew like the area. And when I was driving, I was like, okay, like this block might be good, but this block might be better, right? So I just had that benefit of knowing the area a little bit more. But I can tell you it is very time consuming, right? Driving for dollars. And kind of like what Benson was saying with marketing, and you get your head wrapped, all around that, and not specifically looking for the deals. So with Privy and what Benson just showed us, it proves that this could save time and money, right? And all the above. So again, I'm glad that you're busting your ass out there. That's what we all do, right? That's how we get into the game. So again, man, welcome, and thank you for the question, brother.
Thank you.
Yep. All right, well, Benson, again, thank you so
Yeah.
much. I guess if you can just send over via email, and I could send out the email blast as well. If anyone wants to take you up on that offer, which I think is a really good one, really good one. So,
Absolutely. I would be happy to do it.
awesome. But again, man, I thank you so much. Thank you everyone else for joining. And I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of the week. And thank you very much.
Thanks,
Thank
Eric.
you. Thank you,
See
Benson.
you, Juan
Thank you, Eric.
Carlos. Thanks for the
Alright.
See you.
question. See you,
Thank
Bonnie.
you.
JC.
See you,
Talk to you
James. See you,
soon.
John.
Take care.
Thank you. See you guys later.
All right. Have a good one.
You too.
All right, Benjamin.
Bye.